In this session, we'll look at the first stage of the Agile Engineering Fluency mastery. So today we're going to look at traditional done well and working as a team. If you haven't gone through the overview, you may not know what those are. So we'll just do a quick review of what those are. If you look at the Agile Engineering Fluency model, you'll see two stages. One stage is traditional done well. The second stage is work as a team. We actually combine these together to make them one stage. The reason behind this is we feel like most people are doing at least some of this. There are a lot of practices here, but a lot of these practices aren't enabling practices. These are practices, some of them like build for myself. They might just be where this person's at this time, and that's fine. The idea here is that we don't want to use this as a status tool or a tool for reward or a punitive action. This is a tool for the engineering team to understand what they're aspiring to and to understand what are the next things that they need to do to enable that. So basically, if the team's aspiring to do CI/CD, which is all the way over here to the right, they'll be able to identify all the dependencies that they would need to become good at, all the practices that they would need to become good at before they would be able to do that, and also the dependencies on other disciplines. If you want to know more information about specifically how to use this model, just check in on the on the overview section, the GEM overview section, and you'll get a good idea of how to use this model. Today, we're not going to spend a lot of time in deep diving into the model, but more of really looking in and honing in on traditional done well and work as a team. As you can see at the top of the lesson, there are several more lessons. So each discipline in this stage has a train the trainer session. So we have several. They all link up to the disciplines in the model. So we start with an overview, what we're trying to achieve. Some people are tempted to skip this level. We recommend that you don't skip any levels, but some teams feel like, oh, we're too advanced for that. That's fine. It's just good to do kind of a check-in to make sure that the team's got everything covered and they understand all the basics before they kind of just rush forward. Really, as we'll talk about later, this is about creating the conversations on the team and developing a strong team. So what we want to do is focus on how are we developing a strong team, even through using this model for things that they feel like they're good at. There's nothing wrong with having a look and saying, hey, you know what? This particular practice, we're really good at this and we're past it. And yeah, that's great. Let's celebrate that. So it's really not about being too good for it. It's more around how do we actually work as a team, figure out where we're at and look at ways to improve. So the first place we want to start is the GEM Fluency knowledge base. So we'll just log into the knowledge base. And we'll pick product delivery. So there are three levels of three types of mastery. We have product delivery mastery, service delivery mastery, and enterprise and strategy mastery. These all work together to help an organization transform into being agile. And when I say agile, I mean well-coordinated and nimble, not well-coordinated movement and nimble, not necessarily Scrum or SAFe or any of the agile frameworks. So if you look at product delivery, this is where your engineering team sits. You've got the product delivery fluency flow, and this is where we have our delivery team and our product team initially being apart, but how they come together, work together to create quality flow. Before the team is able to do this, it's really not worth going on too far on the Agile engineering fluency journey because it's hard to focus on engineering mastery if you don't have the support both in time and money of your product team. So we really need to bring the product team along and help them understand how to develop quality flow. And you can see if you have some of these anti-patterns, any of these are the ones before them, maybe the team's not really ready or in a position to leverage the engineering mastery value stream. So once a team gets to level 4, you'll see on the left-hand side here, there are some engineering mastery tabs. We're going to look at traditional done well and work as a team today. So you can see in the agenda, you can either use the pictures here in the agenda and talk to them. Sometimes our internet's not our friend, so we've got these pictures in here, or you can actually go into the knowledge base and talk about them. You can see here, this is the overview, expectations, acceptance criteria of this whole level. And then also you could talk about really, you could blow this picture up and talk about, you can see the concentration here are these pink ones, this pink discipline, and that is discipline and learning. And if you look at the Agile Engineering Fluency model, you would see that discipline and learning, this pink one, I guess it's more purple here. This is also, we can see there's a lot of focus here on this one. So we're just trying to make that look a little bit more obvious here. There is some around quality code, but these are very basic practices. There are a few around not being hurried, and then some around improving as a team, just a couple. But for the most part, it's around actually developing some discipline. And this is really key to improving, is developing that discipline and start developing learning skills. So we're continuously talking about developing a learning organization, continuous learning. These are the sorts of muscles you need to build in order to get to the places that you aspire to. And really in this stage, what we're looking at is the focus is discipline and learning, the investment, training, location, meaning getting your team together, time to understand things, time to write good code, and starting to check your work. And what they're aspiring to is good code with no bugs. So the goal is, if we do these things and we invest in these things in stage one, that'll help us get closer to the things that we're aspiring to in the next stage. So you want to be pretty fluent and be able to describe these, and then also kind of be able to talk about the different practices. Each one of these, it has an orange heading, is actually a train the trainer module. So you won't have to know a lot at this stage about them, but just enough to be able to talk about them if needed. After you review these two pictures or images with the class or the participants, then what you want to do is go do a deep dive into the Agile Engineering Fluency model. And you want to cover this with the participants. Some of them may have seen it, some of them may have not seen it. It's really important to, it can be very daunting if you have all of the disciplines selected, but if you don't, and you just go through it a little bit at a time, what I like to do is go through, just focus in on, okay, we need to build in Slack. Why do we need to build in Slack? We need small specs. Why do we need small specs? Just kind of focus in on those things. How does quality assurance help automated developer testing? And just have a healthy conversation about each of these. And you probably want to go through each of them, spend a couple minutes on each of the disciplines and talk about what it means for that level. So you have the level, the stage of traditional done well and work as a team. That's the first stage. And then the disciplines within that stage. So you want to spend some time talking about that. And then they break into their activity. So their activity is around teaming people up. So getting people in teams. Ask them to pick one discipline in the first stage. So I think all the disciplines are present in the first stage. And maybe you might want to spend some time just talking about what are these disciplines? Why are they important? That's really what we want to get to, right? So what is each discipline? I think all of them are in the first stage. I don't see any missing per se. So they're all here. Maybe you want to tell people, give each team a discipline or let them self-select. It's completely up to you how you do that. And then you want to discuss the disciplines. Ask them to discuss the disciplines at the stage. So what does that discipline mean in that stage? What are the things the teams would be doing to develop these disciplines? What enables the practices for this discipline? What do these practices empower? So the thing is, also, what is the investment? What is it that the organization needs to invest in? What does the team need to invest in? what does it mean to get good at some of these things? So if we want to get better at checking our work, what does that mean? Do we have to spend more time? How do we carve that time out? Why is that important? So we don't want to deep dive too much into the practices because we're going to cover those in the next Train the Trainer sessions. But mostly we want to look at is what's with the disciplines? Why are they important? Why those disciplines? So, and why are they at this stage? Because you'll see that those disciplines are different at each level at each stage. They get quite complex over here on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, there's simple things: manual build and package, automated package, quality assurance, checking developer checking, big design up front. We know what most of these things are, waterfall milestones. We know what those practices are, but why are these important here? Why is this discipline important here? Why are we starting with build in Slack and being not hurried at this point, at this stage? These are the discussions that you want to have. And really what you want to pull out through the feedback section is, are these teams empowered to do this? What would it take for them to do this? What's important to them? And you really want them to leave with, yes, these are things that we want to invest in. These are things that that we're actually aspiring to. How do we get better at this? What are the steps we need to take in order to get better at what we're doing? So this is kind of an overview of traditional done well and working as a team. Hopefully you find this useful and come back for some more sessions. Thanks.